Hi, morning everyone. This is Danny. So I am here because I am looking to. I'm going to start a new professional vlog series. The main theme of it is life of a pioneer, industry pioneer. So for those of you that have been following me on LinkedIn for some time, you would have noticed that my content is looking very different now. This is not a case of rebranding, but rather it is a very fundamental identity shift, right? So for this video, that we're going to talk about what the identity shift really means, right? So I'm going to start by talking about the career quake. My career quake started in June 2025. And then around August last year, the facade, the shell that I have been putting on for the past 20 plus years came crashing down. It was finally destroyed. So for those that may be unaware, when you put on a shell, it's kind of like wearing different masks. It's sort of a performance, you're acting, you're faking it. And for us, it's sort of like presenting a different version of ourselves that is acceptable or improving, or a version that makes other people comfortable, right? So that is what it means. So the word career quake actually was coined by Uma Tana. I came across Uma's podcast, Raw with Uma. That's when she introduced me to the term through her videos. That's how I sort of gained the understanding over the last couple of months about what I'm going through. So right now, I am still in the very early months of my career quake. And because of the whole size and scope of the identity shift, I am giving myself 2 to 3 years to sort of navigate through this messy, ugly, rather uncertain time right now. So the thing about career quake is that when it happens at this size and scope, it wasn't just a professional disruption, it wasn't just a career disruption, it was also something deeply personal. So when it's that huge, it really changes everything about how we look at ourselves, how we look at the world, how we choose to operate and live our lives, right? So over the last couple of months, I needed a lot of time to go through this internal process. It was a lot of internal work, right? And as part of this internal work, I came to create my new sort of philosophies, right? I want to say they are values, but rather it's how I'm looking at the world, how I will carry myself, how I will behave, whether it's with people or when it's under certain circumstances, all different circumstances. So let me start with the very first core philosophy. I call it purpose or mission oriented. So purpose, mission oriented philosophy is basically a filter. Basically when I look at a new decision or an action that I'm about to take, I would ask myself, does this decision or action align with my purpose, my mission, right? So the reason why I came about with this first philosophy is because over the last 20 years as an industry pioneer, I've always had a very clear purpose and mission. I always knew that UX was going to be a thing. I always knew that, I had this sense in me that I wanted to combine what I'm good at, which is development, front-end development, with UX, because it was the only way I could practice it in the real world. So I had this sense in me, I had this direction, this true north, right? But because I was afraid to own it, I allowed myself to be distracted over the years. And because I was constantly distracted, I ended up wasting a lot of time and energy along the way. So now I understand why this philosophy is really important for all my future decisions and actions. Now, the second core philosophy is called intentionality. Right? I equate intentionality with self-awareness and conscious choices. Right? This is also a filter. So it's like when I'm about to make a decision or take an action, I will ask myself, is this a reaction to an external stimuli? Why do I say that? Because when I was living with a shell, for most of my life, 90 to 100% of our choices and actions felt like a reaction. It felt like reactive living. So that's what we call it, reactive living, right? This is actually pretty much the same with every time that I acted desperately or made a compromise that we shouldn't have made. A very good example of what intentionality is in real life is what I'm currently facing right now. I'm facing financial challenges, and I'm currently broke, which is true, and I haven't found or attracted the right work opportunities yet. Right? At the very same time, I've also very recently adopted this new daily mantra, a system that we have subconsciously practiced before but didn't realize it. That daily mantra is very simple. We call it, we don't chase, we attract. Right? So this daily mantra is basically a way to remind ourselves that we do not run after opportunities, we do not chase after updates, we do not chase after clients with follow-ups, but instead we position ourselves like a lighthouse, like a beacon, and as a lighthouse and a beacon, it doesn't chase after the ships. It just lights the beacon, the lighthouse, and the right ships, aka the right opportunities and people, will then be attracted to us. That is what this daily mantra is. And this daily mantra is already proven that it works. In the past, several times before, we were just unaware of it. Right? So now with that in mind, the old programming in my brain, right? The old programming is sort of trying to trigger an old reaction. It wants me to chase, under the pressure of the financial challenges, the debts, being broke right now, and not having attracted the right opportunity. The old programming wants me to chase after opportunities, make compromises on what we actually need and want. But that's the thing, now that we are self-aware enough, we are trying to remind ourselves that we are intentionally choosing not to give in to the old programming. Right? We will not chase. We will continue to focus on our messaging, and we will continue to focus on attracting the right people and the right opportunities to us. Now, finally, for the third core philosophy that we have created, I call it clarity/completeness. So clarity/completeness is more of a criteria/checklist. It's not really a filter. So basically this comes after, right? So every time I have a decision or action and it has passed through the purpose and intentionality filters, then I will start to work on it. I'll start taking action like a project, right? I'll accept a work opportunity because it matches my purpose. It is something that I intentionally want to take on. So now clarity first is, okay, so when it comes to actions and decisions, clarity does have a sort of a filtering effect. So it's not like trying to figure out all the answers upfront. That's not how it works. It's more like being clear on the consequences and the potential outcomes. So it is a lot about taking ownership and being responsible for the choices and actions. See, when you live with a shell and everything is reactive, it's difficult to take ownership in that sense. I mean, we take ownership for everything that the shell has done and the way the shell has lived for the past 20 years. But as the shell, right, it's very unaware of all the actions and choices, and it's not a good thing. So everything we do now has to be clear. Every choice, every action, we have to be clear on why we are doing it, right? And when we make that decision, what would possibly happen? What would be the possible outcome? Yeah, of course. Finally, completeness. Completeness is our equivalence of excellence. So when we take on a task, we take on a project from a client, completeness is like, have we covered our bases? Have we made sure that whatever we're going to deliver to a client is not just what they expect, but perhaps also what they need that they are unaware of. So that is what I mean by completeness. Covering every angle possible. Not that it's perfect. Completeness, excellence is not the same as perfection. So we are not aiming for perfection here. Right, so those are the three core philosophies: purpose, mission-oriented; intentionality, which is self-awareness; and clarity and purpose. Right, so those are the core philosophies. Now, finally, I want to close by sharing with you the realities of being a pioneer. Right, so now when we start looking back over the past 20 years, the truth is our journey doesn't really have maps. If you think about it like an explorer, we don't have maps. All we have is our compass, our true north, right? So that true north is our sense of self and knowing what we are capable of and owning our past accomplishments, right? So that itself is the only thing to help guide us. For me, in this life, this life that we have chosen, being an industry pioneer, there's no such thing as certainty. Right? You can never see the whole staircase, and sometimes, most of the time, all we can really see is just the very first step of the stairs. Right? And after 20 years, I'm really trying to relearn how to trust my own instincts again. This morning during breakfast, I came across a newsletter from the 40s Formula podcast, where they had sat down with another female guest, and one of the very first things they talked about was rebuilding self-trust. Right? The way I see it, self-trust is about trusting ourselves, it's about trusting our instinct. And as an industry pioneer, that's a very important thing, right? So after 20 years, I feel like I'm going back to 2006 again, learning to trust my instincts now. And it's quite scary. Alright, so to end it off, next episode, I will dive more into the whole compass versus map experience, right? And what it really feels like as an industry pioneer going through that sort of journey. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe to my channel if this is what you like to see.